What's going on, everybody? Frank from 5am Ramen here, your boy, and I am in Sagamihara, Kanagawa. Sagamihara is the third largest city in Kanagawa with about 700,000 plus people. It's a big city and it's one of the largest cities in the greater Tokyo metropolitan area. And of course, they have amazing ramen. I've been meaning to come out here and grab some Sagamihara ramen. From award-winning refined soy sauce ramen to rich oyster ramen. Let's zoom in on the scene here in Sagamihara. Sagamihara ramen, let's go. Wow, what an afternoon. Two massive bowls of ramen here in Sagamihara, and then right after that, trampolining. If that's a word, probably is. So I didn't have time to recap after the two bowls. I went straight to the trampoline theme park studio here, and oh my God, I'm spent. That's a big workout. And I was so full after those two bowls, especially the second one with massively thick noodles. Oh my God. Anyways, I'll talk about the two ramen bowls first, and then I'll talk about the trampoline. So both these ramen shops are managed by the Sagamihara Keyaki ramen group, and the first spot is Sagamihara Keyaki, and the second shop is Sagamihara Keyaki Hanare. First bowl was, your modern bowl of shoyu ramen. It was a little bit sour, more sour than some of the shoyu bowls that are out there, but it had a wonderful warm chicken flavor, very deep in flavor, and there was a good amount of green negi as well as raw red onions, but not too intensely flavored broth. Thin noodles and quality all around. This is a high-level bowl, one of the top-rated places in Kanagawa. You'd expect nothing less. It was as I expected, let's say. So the second shop is managed by the same ramen group again, and it's right down the street, Hanare. Relatively new, and they are known also for a shoyu ramen or soy sauce ramen, but they're also known for a mazesoba or soupless ramen. So I decided to go with that one to change things up. It is still quite hot outside, so soupless ramen definitely made sense. It was a heavy bowl. My God, I forget how portion sizes are out here. They're massive. This is in Kanagawa, Chiba, and Saitama. Basically the surrounding prefectures of Tokyo. The portions are bigger out here than they are in Tokyo. Never ending. I was finishing a little bit and I'm like, oh my God, there's still so much left. Really thick noodles too, as is normally the case with mazesoba or soupless ramen. It had a strong soy sauce flavor, but a lot of creaminess from a big amount of pork back fat. Mix it all together, strong flavors, but I would say, salty and creamy from the soy sauce and the pork back fat, but the creaminess really took over. What was really nice, as is the case with soupless ramen, is that there was vinegar on the table to cut through some of that to change up the flavor as well. And it also came with some ryu chili oil on the side. This was a heavy-hitting bowl, my God. And I also got some free memma bamboo shoots because I brought a coupon for a free egg topping. However, I forgot to give him the coupon. I already had bought the ramen, let's say, which came with an egg. So like, oh, why don't you get some other free topping instead of egg? So I had bamboo shoots. So this was an extra filling bowl for me. And oh my God, I keep thinking back to that pork back fat. It all blends in by the time you've mixed it all together, but before that, it's white as snow. It's a heavy-hitting bowl, but it also isn't. I feel like it was most heavy-hitting in the way that the noodles were just, again, non-stop noodles. It was like a bowling ball that was wrapped in bubble wrap. It still hits you, but a little bit more politely so. That's probably the worst reference ever. Now back to the trampoline gym. So when I was at the trampoline gym, all of that was sitting in my belly, the thin noodles and the thick noodles from those two shops. And wow, I didn't have a whole lot of time to digest. And it's a workout. I didn't do anything fancy, of course. I could barely jump. It's not easy. It's harder than it looks, let's say. But it was a lot of fun. I would totally do that again. And the only trick I attempted was one where I was having my knees touch my chest and then also tucking them in with my arms. Beyond that, I was pretty useless. It was a lot of work. And again, feeling so heavy after those two bowls, it was more of a workout perhaps. So I've moved over to Fuchinobe Station right now. Still in Sagamihara City, of course, and I'm waiting for my next ramen shop to open in the evening. They take a little break in between lunch and dinner, and I'll be killing time at a nearby coffee shop. I think I spotted Dotor over there in the corner, so I'll grab a seat over there and get back to it in a little bit. All right, I feel a little recharged after that coffee. Just walking around here in the residential back streets of Sagamihara, and it's super quiet. A little over a 10-minute walk to the next ramen shop, a third one of the day. Moving into evening though now because I am, going to be arriving a little bit after their 6 p.m. opening. And they, Kaigaraya, focus on oyster ramen. Super rich, I'm told. First of all, I want to say that oyster ramen is not that common. You do have a lot of fish-based ramen. There's some fantastic oyster ramen bowls out there, but not as common as you would think. In that sense, when somebody is confident enough to do oyster ramen, the expectations are high. So after a second heavy bowl, the third bowl is going to be heavy, although heavy in a different way. Rich oyster ramen. Okay, so oyster ramen at Kaigaraya. That was a great bowl. And when you're eating the greatest bowls in Japan, in a way, some of them blend together because they're all so good. Or great, I should say. Kaigaraya stood out just because, and it's so dramatic as it's gotten darker all of a sudden here. It stood out because they're using oysters, and oyster ramen, again, is not that common across Japan. They're using oysters from Hiroshima, and Hiroshima is known for having some of the best oysters, if not the best oysters in the country. You go down there, besides eating okonomiyaki, you can also have fresh oysters. And you could tell these are quality oysters. Now, reading up on this ramen shop before visiting, my impression was that it would be, very rich. Well, it was certainly rich from the pork bones and chicken bones. It was kind of mellow and gentle at the same time. I suppose you could say carefully crafted. And I think I mentioned something similar for the mazesoba or soupless ramen earlier today. And they're bowls that are meant to be rich. They're meant to hit you hard. This was certainly rich, but not that thick. And I feel like the richness was there, but only to showcase the oysters, which were most certainly the chief ingredient, or the ones that were meant to shine. And those oyster flavors really shone through. You think about the bowl being rich, but you're not like, oh, I taste chicken and pork and things like that. You really just taste the oysters. So if you're not really into oysters, this is not your bowl. If you're not into seafood, this is not your bowl. As soon as you walk in, you feel like it's some sort of oyster shack. It's got a wooden exterior and interior. Let me know in the comments if you're a fan of oysters, if you want to eat oyster ramen here. To me, the toppings didn't really stand out. There are some ramen shops that do oyster ramen with oyster as toppings. I believe I saw some pieces of oyster in there, but unlike some other oyster ramen shops in Tokyo, you didn't get whole oysters in there. But here was definitely all about the soup. And mind you, oysters are also not cheap, at least here in Japan. Relatively thick noodles to mop it all up. And these are noodles with quite a bit of water in them. So a little bit slippery and great to slurp. All in all, delicious bowl of oyster ramen. But I'm not done for the day. I'm gonna squeeze in one more bowl here before I head back to Tokyo. It's also a ramen shop, just like the previous place and the first place. These shops are part of Tabelog's top 100 East list. Now, Tabelog, think of it as a Yelp for food in Japan, for restaurants, and they have a top 100 ramen list for Tokyo, East Japan, and West Japan. Tokyo being East, West being Osaka, Fukuoka, etc. So, expectations are high. See what they're all about. Nakamura. The thing about eating 4 bowls of ramen is that after the 3rd, 4th bowl, or even more, it's harder to discern things. And the earliest bowls might be the most memorable, but I always try and put that aside, no matter how full I am. And I can tell you I'm full now, just because the bowls are massive out here in Kanagawa. The noodles, they just keep coming at you. Even though these were thinner compared to, say, the mazesoba from earlier, there was just so much of it. You definitely get your money's worth out here. I think if I lived out here and I was doing this as often as I do it in Tokyo, I would be either heavier or, I don't know, something else. I can't even speak right now, I'm so full. It's actually not that bad, but I am feeling heavier than normal, let's say. So this last place, Nakamura, it was good as it's supposed to be. It was very much a Hanare style of ramen. That is a sort of elegant looking, delicately flavored, layered bowl seasoned with soy sauce. So I've had so many of this style. This is very much what's been trending for the last couple of years. Once you have one, they do blend together a little bit. That doesn't mean that this place wasn't good. It was great. Different and beautiful cuts of chashu pork. The dumpling was nice. Had quite a bit of ginger, a lot more ginger than you would normally get with a dumpling. There are also more toppings in here just because I press the more toppings, or I should say all toppings button on the ticket machine. If that's what they're pushing, like this is recommended, that kind of thing, I'll push it. But at other shops, at the very least, I'll get egg. I'll either get the ramen with egg, whatever that ramen might be, or with all toppings. And in this case, that all toppings button was shining there on the left-hand side, so I was like, why not? Anyways, that was with all toppings. The soup was great, very chicken forward, like the first shop we visited. And you also had some sweetness and sourness with the shoyu that they were using there. Maybe there was some mirin inside too to give it some extra sweetness. But just like the first shop, I did get more sourness than normal. Keyaki was that. They went in a little bit of a different direction with the red onions, for example. I thought that was interesting. Even though, of course, like red onions, a lot of shops are using them. This is not something particularly new. But the way that the bowl looked at Nakamura, it just reminded me a lot more of this style that's out there. The green negi in a little circle in the middle. But I think for me today, just because it was different, what really stood out was the oyster ramen. I did like every single bowl, of course. But that oyster ramen, just because it's so unique and different, maybe the most excited. Don't know if it's something I could eat every day though. It is pretty heavy, even if it is gentle as I described. But do let me know, what was your favorite bowl from all the ones I introduced? Did you have a favorite? Feel free to let me know in the comments below. And that's it for me in Sagamihara. I'm gonna head back to Tokyo. It's about an hour and a bit on the train, and yeah, recuperate, rub my belly, as it's been a long day. But I'm glad that trampoline exercise in between the two and then the other two bowls allowed me to maybe make some more room and burn some calories. If you enjoyed this Sagamihara ramen video, do hit that like button and subscribe if you haven't already. Frank from 5am Ramen signing out from a sleepy part of Sagamihara, Kanagawa.